The world's best golfer just snapped at the man who helped him win 19 of his 20 PGA Tour titles on live television, and what the microphones caught is something nobody expected to hear from Scottie Scheffler. This is not a clip of a player losing his temper for 30 seconds. This is 2 full minutes of the world #1 unloading on his caddy in front of every camera at Muirfield Village, every word broadcast, while the man who has stood by him for every single major championship stood silent and kept walking. This is the 5th time in 2026 that Scheffler's composure has publicly shattered, and the US Open at Shinnecock Hills, where he has a chance to complete his career Grand Slam, is 13 days away. Honestly, I think what we are watching is not a bad round at the Memorial. This is the best player in the world quietly coming apart, and nobody in his circle is talking about why. Is Scheffler's 2026 frustration a sign his dominance is finally cracking, or is this just a great player going through a tough stretch? Drop it in the comments right now. And if you want the full inside story on what is actually happening inside Scheffler's game this year, subscribe, because the timing of this meltdown could not be worse.
Scottie Scheffler arrived at Muirfield Village this week as the defending champion, twice over, back-to-back Memorial titles in 2024 and 2025. He has won the Memorial 3 times in 4 years. A three-peat would match a feat only Tiger Woods has ever pulled off at this venue. He is also attempting a career Grand Slam at the US Open in 2 weeks at Shinnecock Hills, which also happens to fall on his 30th birthday. The final round at Shinnecock Hills on his birthday, trying to become only the 7th player in the modern era to complete the career Grand Slam. That is the context sitting on top of everything happening this week. And on Thursday, the first round, the cameras found him on the 16th hole, a par 3, the 4th toughest hole of the day, playing 206 yards, hitting a 7-iron that he believed was absolutely flushed. The ball found the water. What followed was a nearly 2-minute live television event that the broadcast picked up in full. Scheffler turned to caddy Ted Scott, and it started. "I never thought that was the one. I can't hear a word you're saying. I absolutely flush a 7-iron, and we get the wind wrong, and I'm in the water. I don't think you understand how frustrating that is." Ted Scott said nothing. He kept walking. Scheffler finished the day at 1 over 73, hitting only 7 of 18 greens in regulation, which according to stats analyst Justin Ray, is the 2nd worst greens in regulation number of his entire PGA Tour career. He is tied for 33rd, aiming for a three-peat, 13 days from Shinnecock Hills. And the outburst of the 16th was not the first time in 2026 this has happened, not even close.
Scottie Scheffler is the world #1. He is the 2025 Masters champion. He is the player that Xander Schauffele, his own Ryder Cup teammate, has publicly cited as the benchmark for on-course composure. He is the player who, after triple bogeying the 9th hole at the 2024 Memorial Tournament, told a young interviewer, "I was very frustrated. I'm glad you couldn't tell." That version of Scheffler has been disappearing piece by piece in 2026. At the 2026 Masters, he snapped at a reporter who asked a question he deemed terrible. That moment made the rounds but was dismissed as an isolated frustration. At the Arnold Palmer Invitation, after missing a 10-foot putt, Scheffler picked up his ball and threw it directly into the water. At the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, he slammed his club on the tee box after a poor shot, hard enough to draw camera attention. And then in May, at the Cadillac Championship at Doral, he fumed at Ted Scott after missing a tap-in par on the 9th hole. The broadcast commentator said live on air that Ted Scott's ears may be bleeding by the end of the day. That was not a one-off. The Memorial outburst was the 5th public incident in 6 events. You have won 20 PGA Tour titles. You have won 4 majors. You have been ranked world #1 for over 100 weeks. You have not lost your ability to play golf. And yet some combination of a new baby at home limiting practice time, a winless stretch of 10 consecutive events after January, and the weight of chasing a career Grand Slam is pulling at the composure that made you the most complete player on the planet. And instead of keeping that internal, the microphones at Muirfield Village picked up every word of it. After the round, Scheffler explained, "That's just another really good iron shot, and the wind switched from down off the right to, pretty significantly, in off the right. Just don't really know what I'm supposed to do there, outside of trying to hit a good shot. And then it's frustrating when it doesn't work out." Measured, rational, completely at odds with the 2-minute explosion the cameras caught an hour earlier. Is Scheffler's 2026 frustration pattern just a competitive player going through a tough stretch, or is something deeper happening that his team needs to address before Shinnecock? Drop it below. I read every single one.
Now let's talk about Ted Scott, because nobody is telling this part of the story. Ted Scott has been on Scheffler's bag for 19 of his 20 PGA Tour victories, all 4 major championships, every signature win. He has been standing 6 feet away when Scheffler has holed every putt that mattered. He is not just an employee. Off the course, they are best friends. Scott and Scheffler's relationship is genuinely one of the closest player-caddy partnerships in professional golf, which makes it even more significant that when Scheffler first approached Ted Scott about caddying for him, before Scheffler had won anything on tour, Scott's answer was not yes. Scott told him directly, "I don't know if I want to work for you because of your attitude." He said it because Scheffler's temper in his collegiate days was well documented. Scott had heard about it. He was not prepared to sign up for abuse. Scheffler promised him he would work on it. Scott decided to give him a chance. And over several years, Scheffler built a reputation for calm that became as famous as his ball striking. Now here is the part nobody is talking about. The entire story of Scheffler's professional identity, the emotional control, the humility, the post-round composure, was built on a promise he made to Ted Scott before his first PGA Tour win. It was Scott who demanded better. It was Scott who set the standard. And it is Scott who is now standing silent while the man he shaped publicly breaks that standard in front of broadcast microphones, 5 times in 6 events, while chasing the career Grand Slam that would cement his legacy. Tiger Woods had Stevie Williams. Phil Mickelson had Jim McKay. The greatest player of a generation and the caddy who defines his image are not separate stories. They are the same story. When Scheffler was composed, Scott's influence was visible. Now that Scheffler is fraying, Scott's silence on the 16th green is the most telling thing in professional golf right now. There is a question nobody at Muirfield Village is asking. If the promise Scheffler made to Ted Scott before his first tour win is the foundation of the composure that made him world #1, what happens to that foundation when the wins stop coming and the cameras keep rolling?
Here is the counter-argument, and it is worth hearing. Golf Digest spoke this week to a veteran caddy who worked 10 years on tour, and his read on the Memorial incident was blunt and specific. He said, "That outburst, he's not really yelling at his caddy. He's yelling at himself. As a caddy, the last thing you want is your player to be jacked up and can't let it go, because then it follows him to the next hole. He has to let it go. And if that means he takes it out on me, so be it. Take it out on me, as long as we birdie the next hole." That perspective is real. Experienced caddies understand the valve function of on-course venting. Scott was not wounded by the 16th. He walked ahead, he stayed quiet. He has been doing this with Scheffler long enough to know when to absorb and when to redirect. And Scheffler proved the point. He chipped in for birdie on the 17th, he saved par on the 18th. He got it together. But here is why even that defense cannot hold the line on what we are watching in 2026. 1 incident is a valve. 2 incidents is a pattern. 5 incidents in 6 events, caught on broadcast, amplified by social media, discussed by commentators in real time, is a story that is now larger than the valve theory. It has become part of how the world understands Scottie Scheffler this year, and that matters at Shinnecock Hills. Is Ted Scott's silence and patience a sign of a caddy who completely understands his player? Or should someone in Scheffler's camp be having a harder conversation with him before the US Open? Drop it in the comments. Here is why the next 2 weeks are the most important of Scottie Scheffler's career, and why the Memorial Meltdown could not have come at a worse moment. The US Open begins at Shinnecock Hills in 13 days. Scheffler is attempting to become only the 7th player in the modern era to complete the career Grand Slam, and the final round at Shinnecock Hills falls on June 15th, his 30th birthday. The last time a US Open was held at Shinnecock Hills in 2018, the winning score was 1 over par. 1 over par to win a major championship. The setup was so brutal that the USGA apologized mid-round for how the greens were playing. They are returning to Shinnecock as a chastened organization that has spent 8 years trying to prove they learned their lesson. Scheffler goes there having hit 7 of 18 greens in regulation in the first round of the Memorial, ranked 67th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach to green this season, with 5 public emotional incidents in 6 events behind him, chasing a Grand Slam, on his birthday, against a field that will be watching every broadcast clip of the 16th hole at Muirfield Village between now and Thursday morning. The pressure in that environment is not comparable to anything else in sport.
Step back from the 16th hole. Step back from the wind and the 7-iron and the water and the 2-minute rant. Because what is actually happening to Scottie Scheffler in 2026 is a story about something golf rarely talks about openly. Imagine you win 11 tournaments in 2 years. You are ranked world #1 by a distance that makes the gap feel permanent. You get married. You have a child. A second child arrives in 2026. Practice time gets shorter. The schedule doesn't. You go 10 events without winning, despite finishing second twice, second again, third. Always close, never over the line. And the thing that made you who you are, the absolute certainty that composure under pressure was your competitive advantage, starts to feel like a pressure of its own. Because now staying calm isn't natural, it's effort. and effort under pressure looks exactly like what 16 cameras at Muirfield Village caught on Thursday. The composure was never a personality trait, it was a practice, and practices slip when life gets bigger. This is not about one bad round. This is not about a wind call on a par 3. This is about whether the greatest player of his generation can rediscover the thing that made him great, exactly when the US Open, the career Grand Slam, and his 30th birthday are all arriving at the same time. Does Scheffler win the US Open and silence every concern about 2026 in 1 week? Or does his current form suggest the Grand Slam will have to wait? Drop your prediction right now. Here is the single moment that will define everything. The first tee at Shinnecock Hills, 13 days from now. Scottie Scheffler will walk up with Ted Scott on his bag, the man he promised to be better for, the man who was silent on the 16th at Muirfield Village, the man whose patience has been the backstop of everything Scheffler has built. And either the US Open is where Scheffler locks back in and finishes one of the great individual seasons in golf history, or it is the place where 2026 fully reveals itself as the year the cracks appeared. No player in the field will arrive at Shinnecock with more riding on a single week. Honestly, I think he wins. I think the anger at the Memorial is the valve, not the brake. But I have been wrong about Scottie Scheffler before. If you want the inside story from Shinnecock Hills the moment round 1 finishes, subscribe, because a Grand Slam attempt on his 30th birthday is the biggest individual story in golf this year. This story is not over.